What's up, everybody? Brett Okamoto from ESPN. I'm joined today by the UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman, who of course defended his title against Jorge Masvidal in Jacksonville, the first event with fans. This is my first time talking to him since that event, so I'm looking forward to it. Kamaru, first of all, let me take the opportunity to say congratulations on defending your belt. It went, kind of how you said it was going to leading in. So I got to imagine you're happy with it, but now that you've had a few days to digest, and I know you've been doing a little bit of the media tour, what are your thoughts on, kind of putting that chapter with Jorge, kind of finishing it the way you wanted to?
I'm ecstatic. This is what I wanted. I think this is what the people wanted as well. They wanted a definitive answer, and they wanted me to check that box, whether or not I could do this to this man who has claimed to be the next best, has claimed to be the superstar that has acquired all these accolades in a very rapid amount of time in his long career. But I think being able to go out there and stick to my guns and really trust in myself and knowing that with the right preparation that I can go out there and actually do something remarkable like that. It feels amazing.
I want to ask you about the experience with your father. And obviously I got to know that story really, really well. And I'm still grateful to you and your father for telling me that story. I thought it was an amazing story. For anybody who is kind of unaware of it, just real quickly, your father was incarcerated in a federal prison throughout the entirety of your career. He's been wanting to see you in person. He finally got to do that in Florida. We talked about it before the fight. So I got to imagine it was a huge experience for him, huge experience for you. Can you talk about what it was like? Were there any different emotions just knowing that your father was in the arena for the first time? And then what was it like kind of discussing what that was like afterwards?
There's this kind of phase that I can go into, and I kind of go numb from feeling certain things and certain emotions. And I realized this for the first time in 2019 when I was preparing fight week, when I was preparing to fight Tyron Woodley. And my daughter, that was the first fight she had attended. And it was the morning of the fight, and we had breakfast together. And my daughter, just being her sweet self, was trying to be on me and trying to love on me and rub on my face and hug me. And I felt myself going to this place to where I was soft. I was wanting to hold her and just be sentimental and give her that love. Then I realized, no, I've got war coming in a couple of hours. So I had to snap out of it and go numb. And I had to quickly remove myself and go to my room. I had to leave them there at breakfast and go to my room because I felt that. And kind of the same with this moment with my father is, as my father and my daughter was there, this was his second fight that she had come to. And the first for my father is I started to kind of feel that again. I started to feel some of that sentimental, I wanted to be sincere and nice and calm and warming and loving. And I realized, no, this is a big one because this guy made me a little nervous. Of course, every fight makes me nervous, but this one makes me a little more nervous because you're taking on their energy, the entirety of their energy, the fans' energy, all of the above. And you start to think certain thoughts. I don't want to let my parents down. I don't want to let this guy down. This is the first fight that my father has attended to. I don't want to let them down. I don't want to, but I think this is one thing that I do well is snapping out of it and getting back to just me and knowing that if I trust in my skills and my abilities, that I'm going to go out there and really do something special. And so I had to block all those emotions out, go out and really just do what I knew I could do. And this was the perfect way to end that fight.
Yeah. And I've heard you say that a couple of times. In fact, I asked you about it before the fight, like, hey man, it's tough to just defend a UFC championship, right? And so now you're taking on this, you want to do it quickly. You said that you want to break this guy. You're not even talking about like, I just want to beat him. Like I feel bad about the way I beat him last time, you're kind of piling on that pressure, and then to have your father there. And it's something that we kind of talk about before every fight of like, hey, are you feeling pressure? And I think sometimes like, that's just a very lazy way to ask it. Like, hey, are you feeling pressure ahead of this fight? And most fighters are like, nah, man, pressure, whatever, this or that. But like, Are you feeling that compound with every title defense? And now, you know, people are calling you the best pound for pound fighter in the world, and you're trying to be the greatest welterweight in the world. Like how are you handling the pressure side of it? You know, you're getting the media attention now that you fought for earlier in your career, you know, the family stuff, all of that. It just seems like a lot, man. Like are you starting to feel it? And do you like have to come up with strategies to stop feeling the pressure? Or is it just something that you naturally take on?
It is a lot. Absolutely is. And I commend those fighters before me that have done this, the George St. Pierre, the Anderson Silva, the Ronda Rouseys, the Conor McGregor. I commend them, John Jones, because to be able to handle this part of it as well, it's not just about fighting anymore. It's about fighting, but it's also about entertaining. And it's also about doing your obligations, which is a ton of media. Fight week, we'll do radio interviews, and we'll do maybe 15 different radios back to back to back to back to back. And 10 of them might ask the exact same question. Yeah. And you're like, I just answered this. Yeah. But yes, but you didn't answer for this audience or for that audience or for that audience. And so, yeah, it becomes a lot. And to be able to balance this and training and competing and family life, it's very, very difficult. I would say that. And it's something that I didn't think would be this difficult going into it. When you're starting up, you just want to be, I want to be champion. Mm-hmm. I just want to be champion. I want the belt and I want the money to come. But that's it. But you don't actually think about this aspect of it. So it's been very, very difficult. It gets more difficult each and every fight. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I spoke with my coach, Trevor Whitman, about early, even before I was training with him, while Rashad was preparing for one of his last few fights. I was in a locker room and I asked him, like, does it get easier the more you fight and the more you do this? And very candidly, and it was funny, I think in that same room was Faraz Zahabi was in there as well. Trevor Whitman was in there. Another legendary coach was in there. I can't remember quite yet, but they were just like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. It gets worse. And I am feeling that, but I trust in myself and I trust in my skills. And especially with the resources that I have with guys like Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier, Eddie Alvarez, some of these guys, just letting me know the trust in myself. And at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, this is only a short time. When it's said and done, you're going to miss it. And so I'm just trying to indulge myself in it and enjoy it as much as possible because I know this is not forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting. I mean, even the names that you brought up of like, you commend some of those guys for the way they handled it, and they handled it very well for a long time. But in the end, you could almost say that it got him at the end too. Like George, I mean, he was very, very honest about it, that this is like ruining my life, all this pressure, you know, I can't do it. And Anderson Silva, I mean, I want to say, you know, he acted sort of awkwardly in those fights against Chris Weidman. And then afterwards, he said he didn't really even want the championship back. You know, Ronda, when you look at her performance against Holly Holm and the immense amount of spotlight, I think we kind of overlook that sometimes. That part is probably as difficult as just the opponents that you're facing in there. Yeah,
it is absolutely, because it's like one of those things that it gets heavier and heavier and heavier because each and every fight, each and every competition, now people put so much expectations on you, and it just feels like you're carrying this big boulder on you, people's expectations, because it's never good enough. At some point, it's never good enough. Whichever performance, whether it's this one or that one, people are always going to find something to say. And so, yeah, it becomes very, very difficult. So, I commend those guys for being able to handle it for as long as they did, for when they had the opportunity to.
Yeah. After the first time you fought Jorge last July, you know, one of the big sort of observations about that fight is your reaction to it afterwards, you know, and some of that footage that was caught, real raw footage, you know, when you were in the back and you were saying like, I'm not happy, I didn't feel comfortable on my feet. So for you to go out, first of all, did you think that the fight was going to end in that manner? Did you think there was a good chance for you to knock him out in the weight in which you did on the feet? And then how satisfying was that to come from a situation where you were really upset with how things felt on the feet the first time, and then you go in and have that type of result?
I would say it was after the first fight, cup almost empty. This last fight, overflowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that first one, I was upset because I didn't trust in my abilities. I went out there and and which goes to show you just how far ahead I am of these guys in this division. I didn't trust in my abilities, and I really didn't. I don't remember most of the fight, but all I remember is I could do this. I could do. There's certain spots to where I could have let go, but I didn't really, because I didn't trust in my abilities, and that irked me after the fight. It irritated me to where I was in the back. I didn't think Will captured all that, but shout out to Will Harris, Anatomy of a Fighter. He captured that. I was angry with myself because what's the point of preparing and training and learning all these techniques and really going hard? Because I go hard when I train. What's the point of all that if I'm not going to actually go out there and exercise those? And so that's why I was upset with myself, because I knew I could do way more than I did in that fight. And I could do more than these guys think that I can. It's just because I don't show a lot of different things doesn't mean I can't do them. Like, people have never really seen me on my back. They've never seen my jiu-jitsu on my back. You know, we get down and I might twist somebody up like a pretzel. They don't know that, you know. So, yeah, I think it was not being able to display those skills that I showed in this second fight that angered me in that first fight. But in this second one, I was extremely satisfied because I came for violence. There's been two fights that I came really just for violence. I was just going to trust in my abilities and not necessarily systematically doing things like I normally do. I was just going to come for violence. And that was this fight in my first title defense.
That right hand that you did land on him, I mean, he's spoken about it now. He's giving you full credit for it. He said it was a beautiful technique. Did he, I don't know if you maybe saw this. It was an interview with ESPN. He talked about it. He kind of broke it down, what he thought you did, that you feinted, but like for the takedown, and then you came over with the right hand. First of all, did he describe it accurately? And was that a right hand that you thought you could land, or it just presented itself in the moment?
No, I thought I could land it. There was just two separate ways that I knew that I could land it. And the first one I tried in the first round, but I did it in a way, I tried it in a way to where he was still very coherent and very aware of what's going on. And you misjudge certain things. Like he's very slick. He's very, very good with his boxing. And in MMA, fighters don't really roll punches like they do in boxing. When punches are coming, they roll them. Fighters don't really do that, but he does. And he does it very well. There's this little meme he put up. I believe him and his team, they put up after the first fight of him just rolling certain strikes, rolling an elbow and certain things like that. And yeah, it was slick. You know, I give credit where credit is due. It was slick in that moment. But I felt that in the first fight, and I knew it. I knew he was good at that. So now I had to just adjust certain things. And Trevor and I worked on not throwing punches at him, throwing punches through him. I don't care where they land. It's going to hit you, and it's going to hit you hard. And I just had violent intentions with each and every one of those. And so when I was setting it up, there was one where I go down and up quickly, which I've actually hit Justin Gaethje with. And Justin Gaethje takes a punch better than anybody. I don't know. And I thought that one for sure was going to be it, because he's very slick. And if you just throw it at his head, he's able to slip and roll them. But this one, he described it well, but I added a little something that he didn't necessarily catch, and it was my footwork. Trevor and I worked a lot of my footwork. I set him up with the footwork to where I was inside his position to where he couldn't turn his body completely, to where it was just head. And when you go ahead and the missile's coming right at your head, it's very, very hard to be able to get out of the way. And I don't think he anticipated the speed coming, because he felt that I was slower, and he thought that I didn't. Of course, everyone knows now, he thought that I didn't have the power that I did. But yeah, things don't appear the way they seem.
Well, man, obviously it was about you couldn't get much better of a finish, and so then of course the way this sport works is what comes next, and it seems like you're welcoming that question because you want to be so active, and You said up to the fight that you wanted to be active. Now, after the fight, you're saying, you're already getting the itch to get back in the gym. I spoke to your manager, Ali, last week. He told me that you were trying to get on the June card to fight Michael Chiesa. And I basically asked him 5 times. Like, are you sure? Like, how realistic is that? Are you just saying that? And he stuck to his guns and said you wanted to get on the June card. So now that I have you, how quickly were you trying to get around, and was the June card a realistic request from you?
Yeah, it was, because I'm just in this place in my career, and I come to this realization to where I understand, like, I've been through so much with my body. Certain things are hurt. I've had 7 surgeries, and and those long time, extended time in between camps, it makes each fight feel like it's a brand new first fight. And I don't like that feeling, because it comes with a lot of anxiety. Now I pile on the fact that you are the world champion. Now I pile on the fact that you are from a different continent and the whole continent is on your shoulders. Now I pile on the fact that everyone's talking crap, though you're not that good, you're this and that. It just becomes so much to bear, which is why I just took time. I took the time to really work on my body. And once I healed my body to the point where I am now, which shout out to Bio Accelerated, those guys down in Colombia. They, I went and got stem cells done down there last year. And, my body's just it's starting to come together with the help of Trevor and working my feet to where it's coming together to where I want to, if I can, why not? Why not stay active? And as you can tell, I fought 3 fights in the last 9 months, to where some guys haven't fought 3 fights in 3 years. So I'm just trying to stay there. And if I could, I was looking down the roster. Me and my manager, I got home. Being honest, I got home. Monday goes by, we hang out. My daughter goes to school, and I think it's because my daughter goes to school during the day, and I'm just sitting at home bored. And then Tuesday go by, same thing. She got to take her to school, and I'm sitting at home bored. I'm like, all right, I gotta go train. I gotta go do something. And then on Wednesday, I'm like, hey, Ali, so what's going on? Who's available? If anyone's available, let's do it. So I'm going down the roster, and I'm looking at the guys that are available, and of course the guys that have put on a win streak. And it's Edwards, it's Edwards and Chiesa. These are the guys that have put on. They have long winning streaks, and Luque, of course. And these guys are active. They want to be active, so why not? The other guys are kind of tied up with fights, or certain guys are sitting around and waiting, thinking that I'm just going to call their number. So, why not Chiesa?
What have your conversations been like with the UFC? Because I got to say, it's very clear that, and you said this before the Jorge fight, that you want to see something out of Colby, and he came to your fight, and he was involved in the interviews, and the cameras pan to him, and Dana White has said he's next. So it seems like, honestly, Kamaru, the fans want that fight next as well, but it seems very clear that you don't want it. Where are we at with a Colby fight? Because to me, sitting on the sidelines, it would appear that that's your next fight.
I'm not going to say I don't want the fight. Like, I want all the smoke. It doesn't matter who it is. I want all the smoke. At the end of the day, it's what have you done to earn this? Your claim to fame can't be, oh, I went 5 rounds, then the guy broke my jaw and finished. Like, it can't be your claim to fame. Masvidal went 5 rounds with me too. Tyron Woodley went 5 rounds with me. So that can't be your claim to fame. And you can't sit around and fight 3 fights in 3 years and expect to get a title shot when I've just done 3 fights in 9 months. The champion can be the most active guy in the division. I've been through the whole division, and now I'm coming back around. So everyone just kind of sitting around and saying, oh, yeah, I'm next. I don't really believe in that. I mean, show me something. Show me some activity. Leon Edwards, granted, he kind of was stuck in that funky spot to where he can fight for 2 years. That kind of put him back, set him back. But, I mean, look at the guy. Since he fought me, he has put together an impressive resume, just kind of running through and putting together, I think, 8-fight win streak or something like that. You've got Michael Chiesa putting a 4-fight win streak on. You've got Vicente Luque coming back, putting on a 4-fight win streak and finishing these guys. So why does he deserve the shot? Just because he went to 5 rounds and I broke his jaw and finished the fight. So it doesn't really make sense to me. I understand it's a fun fight. It's an incredible fight. And it's a fight that I like because I went to that place. I went to that violent place. And of course, I wouldn't mind going there again. I just went there last week. So I wouldn't mind going there again. It's it just needs to make sense. And when it makes sense, absolutely, we can do
I wouldn't mind seeing you go back to the violent place myself, and I'm sure a lot of spectators, they kind of like Violent Kamaru. Who can pull out Violent Kamaru right now, other than well, Jorge just did. Maybe Colby, I suppose, if you that he would bring out the Violent Kamaru. Yes, and is there anybody else?
Right now, I mean, we've got this Mickey Mouse Clubhouse kid that's this Disney kid over there that's fighting, that's kind of picking off, just guys that aren't necessarily fighters, and he's starting to think that he's a fighter, and that's just kind of like the stage that we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
It's these YouTube kids picking fights with actual fighters, because it's almost like a no lose situation for them, because they go in there and get beat up, they still make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kid is kind of getting dangerously close to taking me to that violent place, because he has no business, mentioning my name in his mouth, but he's doing that. And now he's putting up pictures of me and my family,
Mm-hmm.
to where it's starting to slowly shift to that dangerous place, to where it could be a problem whenever and wherever I see him.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I mean, obviously, I was going to ask you about him personally. I don't have a whole lot of interest in the Jake Paul stuff. I respect what he's doing. He's done phenomenal, and keep doing it. If it's making you money, if it's creating buzz, keep doing what you're doing. But obviously, as a fight fan, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in seeing you fight him. Um, but I hear what you're saying, and that is that, to be honest, I was expecting kind of a TMZ answer that he said, like, well, why not? Why not play around with him a little bit, and why not keep this idea together of you and him fighting? But it does seem like it's coming from a place of like maybe he's benefiting off a sport that you've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into, and he's kind of reaping rewards. Is that part of it, or is it like a personal thing because of the daughter photo that he posted? Like what is taking you so close to this actually wanting?
Yeah, it's absolutely that personal thing, because it's not, at the end of the day, who is this kid? I mean, this kid is nobody. I mean, he's not putting the dues. He's not paying his dues. He's not putting the blood, sweat, and tears. There's guys in the company, in the UFC. There's bantamweights that would eat this kid up.
Mhm.
And so for him to start mentioning that, I took it personal. The fact that, first, I took it kind of personal, the way they tried to punk Tyron Woodley backstage. I did take that a little personal.
Mhm.
And then now you fast forwarded to where now he's talking to DC a certain way, which DC is one of our guys. Who in MMA does not love Daniel Cormier?
Yeah.
So to bring it there, that's just, there's a level of disrespect that these guys don't understand, and that's the first lesson that we're taught in martial arts, is respect. And these guys don't understand it, because they're not martial artists. They don't come from that. They just come, they want to put on these celebrity fights, and that's it. And now he's brought me into it, to where I initially, I don't acknowledge him, because at the end of the day, I don't play fighting, which has been a knock on me for a while, because I'm not here to talk trash and entertain you.
Mhm.
I really do this. I really fight. I'm not here to play that. So when you're going out and you're just trying to fish, and now you're taking it personal, you're gonna put my picture out
Mhm.
with my daughter. Now that's bringing it dangerously close to the point where it could be a problem whenever and wherever I see you.
Hmm. Last question on this topic is that when you wanted to set up the Jorge fight, you went and sat down with Dana. You guys had a good meeting. It's clear that Dana respects you as a champion, and you guys he respects your opinion. He respects the direction that you want to take your career in. If you went and sat down with Dana over at the PI and had lunch with him and said, you know what, just give it, let me go whoop this kid. I'll do it real quick. I'll come right back and defend my title. What do you think Dana's saying to that?
It's a lot about presentation. It's about presentation, and I think with the right presentation, and if it makes sense, I think that's Dana. At the end of the day, Dana's he's not the best promoter in the game for no reason.
Mhm.
He knows what he's doing, and if it makes sense for him, it's one of those conversations that we might have. If it make dollars, sometimes it makes sense. So who knows? We'll have to have that talk, and when we do, you guys will be one of the first to know.
Do you so Leon Edwards was supposed to fight Nate Diaz May 15th. It was supposed to be coming up. Now it's going to be in June. You're giving me a little smile there. What do you have a thought right off the bat? I haven't even asked a question. You got a little smile. What do you want to say about this?
Nah, you know something that I don't, that I, do you know something, Brett?
Well,
Go ahead
hey,
and say it.
I was gonna say it was Nate that pulled out of the fight with an injury, but it's not supposed to be serious. They've already said they're going to rebook it for June. But if you want to stay active and you think Leon is worthy of a chance, did you ever consider, hey, calling up Dana and saying, hey, I'll fight Leon. I'll fight Leon right now. I want to fight. I want to defend my title. Was that a fight that would interest you?
I'm okay. I'm gonna be honest with you, Brett. I'm crazy in the sense to where as soon as I heard about it, I just landed here in Atlantic City for my brother's fight, and I'm quarantined in my room, and I hear about it, and I'm like, wow. I look around, I look in the bathroom. There's not a scale. So I pick up the phone and I speak with my manager Ali, and I tell him, hey. And he already knew what I was gonna say. I'm like, hey, I need to check my weight, and I'm gonna go put in some rounds in the morning. And depending on how I feel, we might be fighting next week. And he goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, nah, we might be fighting next week. And so I went, I tried to find a scale. I couldn't find one. So basically I had to sleep on it. And I woke up the next morning and I had to go up to my brother's room, and I stepped on the scale, and the number wasn't pretty. And I came back, and I just meditated on it and really thought about it. And I just, because there's a lot that I have to consider. Now I have to consider putting my family through this again, my daughter through this without warning. Just, hey, I'm gone and I'm doing this. And we have a lot of things that we have to get done here in the next 6 weeks. And I just felt that it would be bad. And plus, at the end of the day, I don't want to just go out there and defend the title anymore. I want to do it spectacularly, because fans aren't just looking for me to win anymore. They want to see impressive performances. And I couldn't necessarily guarantee that, because I hadn't mentally prepared for this guy. I know that with adequate time, like I just proved in the last back-to-back fights, with adequate time, I could put on a spectacular performance. And so I don't want to do that again with Leon. At this time, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that's what I wanted. So I stepped on the scale, and the number wasn't pretty. And I just said, you know what? I could kill myself to get down here and make this and go out there and defend my belt. But I want to do it spectacularly, because I know that I'm just so much better than these guys. So just a win wouldn't satisfy me.
Well, let me ask you one more thing then, because so sitting here today, and as always, things can change. I mean, you were looking around for your room for a scale, thinking that you might fight in 8 days. So anything can change, right? But sitting here today in early May, and knowing that in June you will see Nate fight Leon, you will also see Marvin fight Israel. And I know that you're a big fan of Israel. You're probably, I would imagine, rooting for him in that fight. But another
Absolutely.
thing that your manager mentioned is that if Marvin were to pull that off, that, hey, like you have said that you would go up to 185, as long as it's not, against a close friend of yours in Izzy. So do you think that we will see your next fight booked before June 12th, or are you of the mindset of like, let's see these things play out? You've got Colby right there. A lot of people want to see that fight. But do you want to see the Leon fight? Do you want to see what happens in that middleweight title fight? Like, what is your mindset right now in terms of your next move?
Absolutely. I think that's an important night for these fights to play out. It's a very important night. And yes, I do want to see how those play out, because there's a lot of implications on it. If Leon looks spectacular, I mean, it makes sense. And if Nate looks spectacular, that could make sense as well. With the whole Marvin and Israel situation, I don't want to necessarily think about that, because I think that I'm 100% behind Izzy on that. I think Izzy can pull it out. I love Marvin as well, but I think Izzy can pull that one out, and he's done it before, and I think he can, and I think he will. But if there was a case to where I would actually go up and challenge for that belt, it would be without Izzy being in the picture. So if Izzy's not champ, then it's something that I could take a look at.
Well, we appreciate the time, man. One last one is, as you mentioned, you're in Atlantic City to corner your younger brother, Mohammed. Younger brother, but much bigger brother. The man is an absolute giant specimen. He's fighting in PFL. What can you tell us about his skill set, him as a person, and just what you expect out of him this year in PFL?
He was the epitome of just raw talent for a long time, because he was trying to kind of figure it out. And I could tell it's tough when you have a brother that's kind of at the top of the sport, because then you're able to be around him all the time to make you kind of think you got it figured out, to where, he was kind of, it wasn't clicking for him. And I tried to encourage him to find a place, find a home base to really develop your skills, because it's very tough to where you train with this guy and go to this guy and this guy. No one's really creating a foundation for you. To where he applied himself a few months ago, he packed up and moved out of Dallas, and he came down to Denver, to where he's working with Vinny Lopez now, and Cody Donovan, to where they've in the short few months, his progression has been incredible. I'm watching him hit pads now, and I'm thinking, like, if we got into, he'd probably be a problem to just go ahead and get out of there now. So watching that and seeing that, it's inspiring for me as well. And I love that, because now I'm coming to these fights and I'm thinking, if these guys aren't careful, he's going to knock their heads off. So I'm extremely excited. I can't wait to see what he goes out here and does in this whole PFL tournament.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to, man. Thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on all the success. Big year for the Usmans coming up, and I'm looking forward to talk to you about it throughout it all. So thank you again for the time, man. Take care out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.